Okay, we are on the Gamescom 2022 and with me is...
Darren from Paper Coda Games.
Hi Darren, yeah, what have you brought with you to the Gamescom?
Yeah, we are bringing a game called Media Circus. It's a game that lets you make your own news and run your own newspaper. And there's a lot of fun in that actually, more than it sounds.
Okay, yeah, I'm curious, then let's jump into it.
Absolutely. Okay, so we start a normal game. So there's a little bit of a prologue, you say. So here I'm receiving a call from my boss, Maxim Crane, and she's asking me to put in a specific article before the paper goes to print. And yeah, the article is kind of like a hit piece on a rival newspaper. But the character, as you can see here, is not very convinced. You want to check it first. Who filed it? Did they verify it? However, you're getting this pressure from your boss to publish it anyway. And she also explicitly tells you to not publish the one about the military bomb test. So you are the editor. However, you are under a lot of pressure to do what your boss, the owner of the newspaper, wants. And this is kind of like the first dilemma that you are faced in the game. So we'll see how we do that. We tell her that we're the editor, let us decide, and then we'll see how it goes from there.
So it's quite early in the game and we already have to make our decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. The core design that we have is always interesting decision making. So ideally, every step of the way, you're making a decision that is like a bit difficult, but also fun to make. Right. So here you can see a little bit of a tutorial process. The game tells you exactly how your readers prefer to read the news. So in this case, they're a lot more mystical than they are scientific. So if you publish something mystical, you're going to get way more readers. But of course, readers is not the only thing. Any stories you publish will have its own impact on the world, and we'll see that very quickly. So here you have two stories, but only enough space for one. This is only for this tutorial turn. Later we'll see a full page that you can edit freely. So now it's my turn to choose. So I have a very clear directive from my boss to publish this piece and not this one. And I only have space for one. So what if I just listen to my boss? Let's see how that goes. So I drag it here, and this is the main gameplay mechanic that we have. Your most important resources is the space you have on your newspaper. A bigger thing will have a bigger impact on the world and also attract more readers to it. A bigger your advertisement is, will give you more money. And it's your job as an editor to balance all of these factors and then to also experience the story that the game has to offer. In this case, I'm going to publish the hit piece on my rival newspaper. I'm going to follow what my boss say, and we'll see. So once you're ready, click print, and we'll await the result.
So previously we had 30% scientific and the world has already changed. Now we have 26%. Do we have 26% viewers for our newspaper, or does our world now is shifting towards mystical?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So as you can see here, our viewer is actually shifting towards mystical, because whatever you publish will change how your viewers see the world. And this is the core idea behind our game, which is that who makes the news decide what the truth is. So in this case, you are publishing a very mystical, unscientific truth, and this create a change in your population, and they will become more and more mystical the more you push them in that direction. So in this case, we do pretty well. We make a fair bit of profit, but of course we're changing the world in a way that maybe you don't want to, or maybe you do. This is the choice always up to the players.
So both decisions can lead to success.
Or both decisions can also lead to failure, yes. So we want to create a scenario where there's no black and white. Anything you do have a complicated and nuanced outcomes. Of course, there is a lot of profit to make if you publish something popular, but also changing the world in a more negative way can come back and bite you later. So in this case, you can see that the title is a bit of a spoiler. So let's see what the reasoning is. So because you are publishing like an unfounded, like a bit of fake news in this case, it's very sensational, but it's not very true. That's why the rival newspaper Cologne Post is suing us, and because of that, she's throwing you under the bus. As an editor, you're taking the fall, and now, even though she told you to, she's throwing you under the bus, and now you're being fired. So we want to play a bit faster through this, but essentially, She is icing you out of the industry, and she's telling you to pack up and leave the office as soon as possible. So of course, I think we are very angry now. We follow what we are told, and we are still getting fired. So fine, we couldn't keep working with you anyway. And this is the inciting incident of the game. And now the real game begins. After being fired, you are going to start your own newspaper. So now you're the only guy or gal out there that decide what kind of news you want to publish. It's all in your hand now. Whether you want to follow the juicy, sensational news, or you want to do some serious investigation. So here you're brought to your actual office, and these are your two friends. Your friend Grey Raven, he's bringing in a printer who's going to support you financially. So maybe for the sake of our audience at home, I could maybe fast forward through this a little bit because there's a bit of text here. But essentially the core idea here is that the printer is willing to help you out, but he's having a condition. By the end of 4 weeks, you have to beat a rival newspaper, otherwise he will cut the deal and you will go bankrupt. So you have a countdown. In 4 weeks, you have to make sure you publish enough news, popular enough that people will buy your news. So the idea is that it is not a game if there's no friction or obstacle to overcome. So you can't just publish what you want. You also need to make sure you stay profitable as a business. So the printer is giving you things. The challenges here is we'll do a trial period, and at the end of it, we'll see if we can continue to work. And yeah, of course, we have no other choice. So I think we are very happy to take this. We thank our friend Grey Raven here, and onward we go. So as the editor, you now have access to your reporters. So what kind of news you get is now up to you as well. This is a small teaser of the world map that we will be playing with. For this demo, we have a small map with 4 locations. And when there's a special story coming up, there will be more locations popping out as well. You have 2 reporters and they have their own skill. And ideally, you can look at the description of this location and figure out what kind of stories you may get from them. So now it's up to you to assign your reporter to a specific location. And I'm feeling like I want to do like a bit of like a working class newspaper. So Dungridge and Boroughland are the 2 regions that will give me this kind of news. So I'm gonna put my reporters there, for example, and yeah, see what kind of news we have.
But you also had some things that your reporters are good at, so you have to look at this as well.
Yeah, absolutely. For example, they have skill, and when they level up, and then yes, you can have skill and leveling up. You can unlock more skill or higher level of the skill. So in this case, for example, as promised, you now have access to the full page, and you can freely design it. In this case, for example, our reporter Nancy Digger, she is a seasoned reporter, so she already started out at level 2, and she has a skill that's just going to give you 5% more readers across the board. So it's really useful. You can send her anywhere, and she will bring up a few more readers back to you. So now it's your turn to be the editor, and as you can see, previously we only played with scientific and mystical. Now you're playing with more variables: liberal, conservative, socialist, capitalist, and all of these are your reader preferences, and you can see how each of the news correspond to that. So as promised, I want to do a bit of a working class newspaper. So I think the Earth Party, for example, is a more like a working class party, and but here, if you read the news carefully, you can see that actually the news is exposing a scandal in the Earth Party. Now, as someone who wants to support the Earth Party potentially, I'm going to bury this news. I'm going to hide it away, and I'm going to publish something else. You know what? I think this news about alien is pretty fun, so I'm going to go with that. So there's a news about the giant aliens attacking the snail farmer. This bomb icon here also means it's pretty sensational, and sensational news give you more readers. Of course, they might not be very verified, which might come and bite you later, but for now I want readers, so let's go with that. And then I would do another piece here, reporting on the Earth Party mayor candidate. As promised, very working class news, everything's going well. as you can see, the bigger you make a newspaper, the more impact it has. And all of this will have an effect later, we can see. Yeah, and a bit of advertisement. I think we need that to survive as a business as well. So, and this advertisement seems pretty harmless, just a news about a movie. So, I think it looks pretty good. We have some fun photo here, advertisement. Let's print that.
So what do we expect to happen now? I mean, we have, we had this mystical story, so we expected mystical's viewership to go up. That actually happened, and we expected from the other story that the liberals going up, and that happened as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So in the beginning of the game, you at least in the first few turns, you can see that your impact has a direct, your action has a direct impact on the population, and this is for now very simple, right? Whatever you publish, you will push your population a certain way. However, this number you see here, there are storylines, there are locations, there are events in the world that are triggered behind the scene by this number. So if you push your population a certain way, if you make them very mystical or very liberal, for example, it will unlock content and the world will then have its turn to respond to you. So in the beginning, yes, you're manipulating the world, but then at the end of it, the world will also respond to you and fight back a little bit. So here in this case, I think we're doing fairly okay. We can look also as the more articles of a reporter you publish, the more XP that reporter will gain. So if you want to level someone up, you have to give them the opportunity to be published on the newspaper. You can also see how your relationship with various factions have changed. So in this case, because I'm publishing very socialist and liberal news, the Sky Party, which is like a more right-wing party, doesn't really like me too much. But I think I do pretty well. I have got out of the last place. Remember, we talked a bit about the trial period. And after 4 weeks, if we're still in the last place, we'll lose the game. So I'm doing pretty okay on the first turn, getting out of last place. But again, it's just the first turn, anything can still happen. And then at the end of a week long, sometimes you have like an event either responding to your actions or maybe just like scripted or happen on a certain conditions that you don't know. But in this case, it's just a very simple event where your friend Ray Raven call you again, check in on you, and inform you about the upcoming election. This is a big event in our demo. At the end of the 10 turn, you have an election, and the outcome of that depends completely on the action of the players. So yeah, we can speed through this a little bit, and he also check in with you, are you doing well? It's a way to also for the game to inform the players that their actions, if you push for a certain belief, like liberal, socialist, scientific, maybe this candidate will have some advantage, and vice versa. However, that's not the only thing. There's a lot of things we're tracking behind the scene. You could push for a certain belief, but if you're also actively sabotaging a candidate by publishing maybe like an expose on them or revealing their scandal, that could also have a very big impact on the election outcome. So the outcome is not just dependent on one factor. Usually when we design an event or like a storyline, the outcomes is dependent on at least 2 to 3 types of different factors. And this makes the game way more organic and way more interesting and less predictable.
So in the moment we have 2 choices, basically, whom do we want to get the seat eventually? Or we can just say we don't care, we want to maximize viewership and see who will win over that. But is one option easier than the other if we actually decide for one side?
Yeah, so one option is actually easier in the prototype. So whenever you start the game, there is a pre-existing world state. And in this case, the world state is a bit more conservative and a bit more mystical, which is a bit of an advantage to Goober, our candidate in the Sky Party. So if you want him to win, there's less you have to do. However, if you want someone like Shrew to win, you need to work harder against that. This is, I think, to create like a little bit of like a texture for the game. It's not impossible for either choice. It just make it more believable that you live in a world with existing prejudice or biases in a certain way.
So what is then the motivation to take the more difficult approach if you can like win either way, except of course for your personal preference of saying, yeah, I like this way more than the other?
Yeah, so I think personal preference is of course a very strong point, but there's also mechanical thing that is impactful. For example, if you go towards supporting Goobers and this worldview, you're also locking yourself out of the other storylines. For example, like we have a storyline about a freedom movement in the colony. And the person behind that storyline will not contact you if your newspaper mostly just publish very like right-wing conservative talking. So of course there is this incentive to explore characters you care about, which faction you care about. And there's also an incentive to, because you can never know what the outcome is. So for example, it's easier to support Goober and to push his existing worldview, but do you want to live in a world, I'm not saying as a human being, but like even in the game, if you live in the game world where it's like very conservative, the population may decide that they want to censor a certain topic or certain conversation, which means that you as an editor of a newspaper have less content to work with and you cannot publish a certain thing. So anything you do, we want to give you the freedom to do it, but we also want to give you realistic outcome, and there will be pros and cons, challenges either way.
Okay, I wonder whether that's a game which many people play like many times and see all the different options. I could probably see if I play it, I have a certain preference, and if I do the other preference, then I say, oh no, it's no fun. But yeah, everybody is different. I wonder what you out there think. Please let me know if that's a game that's actually interesting to you. And yeah, I can see there's, even though it looks simple, like you just have a few menus, but there's quite a lot of story behind this, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The very much we are a mix of narrative and strategy management game, and we want to pay respect to both genre. We take the narrative very seriously. So, for example, you can see here these are the main cast of characters. Each of them, even in this demo, a small demo we have, each of them has a very fleshed out arts representation, backstory, and they all have their personal story that you could find out if you play in a certain way. There's also faction in the world. Some of these factions have very interesting story. For example, this oil company has a whole story about pollution and potentially maybe creating a monster. A bit of a spoiler there, but I think the people will really enjoy it. At the same time, we also want to respect the management and strategy genre, and we want to make sure that you are running a business. So it's not just a fantasy world where you can just publish whatever you want. There's always a pressure of staying alive and not going bankrupt. And as we work more and more on the game, we are adding more strategy layers so that if you come in the game and say, hey, I want to be a tabloid, I just want to publish the most popular thing, you can do that, and you can see how that would change the world and how that would impact you. Or you could come in and say, look, I only care about entertainment. I want to be like an entertainment news. Sure, there'd be an interesting story there too.
So you have been selected for Games for Democracy, and I suppose this is the official confirmation that this is exactly how newspapers work in the real world, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely, 100%. No, it's yeah. I think we take inspiration a lot from the news, or from the news in the real world. Our writer and designer used to work as an editor, so a lot of these also come from a very real place. At the same time, of course, we want to make it a game. And a game, we want to make it exciting for players to play and to experience this story. So a lot of inspiration from real journalists, we interview them, but we adapt the story into something that is like maybe a little bit more fun, more comedy based. And this would also then allow you to understand this topic better, because you are not being put off by the dryness or by the seriousness of the topic. Yeah.
Okay, many insights, and we really should be coming to an end right now. It's already a pretty a long presentation. Thank you very much for your time. And yeah, I'm curious what's going to be, how the game is going to be when it's released. When is that going to be?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much as well. I'm very excited to share the game with everyone online. So at the moment, we are in talks with publishers and investors. So we're aiming for a 2027 release, but of course this is contingent on how fast or how slow this negotiation process go with the publishers. So if you're out there and if you like what you see, you're curious about it, check us out on Steam. We're available on Steam right now. There's a trailer, there's more information there. If you could give us a follow or wish list, that would really help us to also prove to the publisher and investor that it's a game worth making. And the earlier we can do that, the earlier the game will be out.
If you're planning release in maybe 2027, so in 2 years, you actually have a lot of plans for more content to add to the game.
Yeah, absolutely. So maybe I give a quick summary. So on one hand, of course, the narrative side of things, we want to add a lot more storyline. So no matter what you choose, there will be interesting story, well-written story as well. We take the writing very seriously. And also there will always be story for you to come back and play the game again. On the system side, we are looking to do two main things. The first thing is we want to add more system on the newspaper editing. So as you go play more than 7 or 10 turns, there are more system to go. So it's not always just laying out the newspaper, but maybe what you put next to each other will have an effect, or maybe you have an editorial power to switch like a leaning of an article from liberal to conservative and vice versa. And in the strategy layer, we are adding more play style, wins and losing conditions, and we are adding a way for you to spend your resources to further your play style. So for example, the money you make can be spent to buy advertisement, can be spent to bribe politicians to get story from them, can also be spent to maybe build a community, and maybe that community will then have story for you to do. So yeah, whatever play style you have, you can spend resources to support that play style.
I see how much more in this game could be in 2 years, and how interesting it's gonna be to maybe revisit it next Gamescom or at any other occasion. But for now, thank you for your time. And the last question is maybe publish everything we've just recorded, so the interview and the gameplay.
Oh, sorry, could you repeat the questions? I'm sorry.
Can we publish everything that we have just recorded, like the interview and the gameplay?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm very happy to show it to the players.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.